So, hey there, family. I'm on with Simon from Belfast in the United Kingdom, and I'm speaking with him because he has that Bible Guy YouTube channel that I've been inspired by, and I think it has a lot of value for disciples everywhere who are experimenting with YouTube and sharing the gospel there. So, Simon, thank you for the time.
No problem, Joey. It's a pleasure to join you today.
Take a few minutes, tell me about how you came to faith, to the Lord, and became a disciple.
Yeah, certainly. It was actually, believe it or not, I know you didn't organize this specifically, but it was 22 years ago, just a few days ago. So
Wow.
22 years, the year 2000. Became a disciple, live in Northern Ireland, brought up in Northern Ireland. My mum was a Catholic, my dad was a Protestant. In Northern Ireland in the 1970s and 80s, that was a problem. There was a lot of sectarianism and
Mm,
what was known as the Troubles. So my family they ended up splitting up. My dad left when I was about three.
wow.
And I know that I had a very hard upbringing because of the Troubles, because of being bullied, because of not having a father, and all this sort of stuff. So I definitely grew up fatherless, which what the Bible appealed to me, God's focus on the fatherless. But brought up in Catholicism. So I did start seeking year after year as I got from 15 through to 18 after being
Hmm.
a very angry young man because of my experiences. Um, but yeah, I realized there's something isn't right here, and I'm not living the right life. And I started looking into the scriptures, started searching around, looked into Islam, Nostradamus. I looked into Buddhism. I studied into
Wow.
everything just to see what was true. I realized if this is true, I need to give it my full heart. If it's not true, then I just need to forget it and just pursue whatever makes me happy in life. But no matter what I experienced, I never let go of this idea that God was there, and that He would reward us for seeking Him in some way, or He would appear to us or reveal Himself in some way. So, yeah, I discipled 22 years, and it was a big, big, dramatic change from the guy that I was
Wow.
to afterwards.
Mentioning everything you're going through and looking into, the troubles in Nostradamus, that could be a whole separate interview. And looking forward to hearing more about it sometime. And now, here in 22 years after that, and in 2022, you have this YouTube channel with well over 300 subscribers, and I've watched it grow from the start, from a few years back. What got you into YouTube?
Wow, it's always lovely to hear about somebody following you from the start because yeah. What got me into YouTube? I think as the years went by, I became a physiotherapist, and I love that part of my job. And I think I developed skills that I could see myself, using my mind in a certain way. So I thought one of the things
Mm,
that troubled me in the kingdom or in Christendom at large was the people's inability to explain why they believe. It's almost like people were
yeah.
embarrassed by their faith and they didn't quite know how to answer the scientist or the
Mm,
evolutionist about why they believed, and they just shied away. And to be honest, I had some doubts myself. But then I started looking into my doubts and I dealt with my doubts. I examined the scriptures and other things and I got answers. So I realized I wanted to set up something called Prepare to Answer. So 1 Peter 3:15,
yeah.
being able to defend your faith, apologia, loved apologetics, love being able to defend things in my faith and so on. So I set up a podcast called Prepare to Answer, a blog,
Mm,
then a podcast, and then a YouTube channel. The YouTube channel came about because friends had advised about the idea of that Bible guy. They suggested it, not me.
mm,
Um, and it was someone at the start of the pandemic. So I'd set up a YouTube channel
okay.
several years ago. But then because of the pandemic, I realized that more people maybe wanted videos. So I was advised by a good friend, Mulligan Price, in the churches in London, who said, why not try more videos again? And I thought, the lighting bothers me. I don't like the way you look on video. I don't like the way it
Hmm.
sounds. It's overly technical and complicated. Let me just say what I want to say. But then I realized, let me give this another go. So about 2.5 years ago, at the start of the pandemic, I started doing more videos, which started as an Isaiah series. And I realized, why not share what I'm
Okay.
learning every morning? And then lo
Yeah.
and behold, more people tune in to find out what you're learning every morning, start to ask you questions, and then it just grows from there. So it's been incredible, and incredible things have came from it as well, for sure.
I went to film school and then went into ministry, and it's always tough which one is going to be on the front burner, trying to balance YouTube and ministry, and I believe you recently became more of a minister. Am I right in that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I became the full-time minister. We're all in the ministry
Okay.
full-time, but
Oh yeah.
I'm employed full-time in the ministry in Belfast now. So I lead the church in Belfast 4 days a week, and then 1 day a week oversee the teaching ministry in the UK. So but part of the
Okay.
UK teaching ministry as well. So I do that now, which ultimately came about for me, partly related to, I suppose, getting yourself out there on YouTube, becoming that Bible guy,
Yeah.
becoming more known and being asked to teach in various places, that your conviction starts to
Sure.
be seen. And you and some of the dreams I had buried about more ministry time started to become more of a reality through the YouTube channel and
Mm.
teaching. I then was employed 1 day a week in the sort of part of the UK teaching ministry, and then because of that,
Okay.
then ultimately, you express your desires to have more ministry time. So whenever the opportunity
Yeah.
came about, people came and said, "Would you be interested in this?" They didn't have to ask twice.
Yeah.
So in some ways, some of it was born out of pursuing that dream of putting yourself out there, sharing on
Hmm.
your channel and that type of thing.
That's so helpful for disciples to know. Yes, we are all in the ministry, and you were making content before when you maybe just had 1 day of paid ministry, and now you're still making content. And what did that look like when you just started, and what does it look like now for your shooting schedule? You said you just take what you're learning every day and what's relevant to people, putting it together. For your channel, what's the content strategy and the shooting strategy for how often you're filming throughout the week?
Yeah, that's a great question. The content strategy for me, I mean, the thing that I love ultimately is apologetics, evidences, and being
Yeah.
able to help people believe and know why they believe, and then basically dig into their doubts and remove intellectual barriers for people believing. And I love doing that. I love digging into the difficult questions, ultimately because I believe there are answers, although there are things that we may not get to know until we get to heaven. But so
Hmm.
that's the but I realize as I get older and as I'm around teaching more, that I need to be more flexible in terms of, there's a very pragmatic side to me where I want to deal with what's pertinent of today. So you may
Yeah.
have seen
Hmm.
some of my videos start to relate to unity, um,
Right.
how we
Hmm.
follow the scriptures, biblical purity, and other topics around divisions and how to be united and sort of that type of thing. So I suppose I do feel like I want to deal with pertinent topics of today, like what is the audience asking. So that, I suppose,
Right.
there's a part of me where I am flexible to some extent in that I want to respond to what people need to know about. Um, all that said, the base of it all would probably be apologetics and teaching apologetics. I
Yeah.
generally tend to aim for one video a week, generally, albeit I've just been at the World Discipleship Summit and I came back with a whole
Hmm.
series of lessons, and I thought I can't do these one per week. It's going to take me months to get through them. I've got to do maybe two a week potentially.
Wow. Okay.
So I don't think it's changed that much. Obviously, I've got more time since I started leading the church, which is nearly 3 months. It has been full
Hmm.
on and very busy. So I think it hasn't quite settled yet. I suspect I am hoping to continue with my master's, but I am hoping that I might get a bit more done with that. Um, I think the other driver, sorry to go on this one, but the other driver for this is what's the needs of disciples in the kingdom at the moment, and that's what one
Yeah.
of my drivers for content would be. Um, it seems like people, teens are dealing. My team was recently at teen camp, and they did deal with
Hmm.
evidences for the Bible and questions like, why does God send people to hell? And so it seems like it naturally comes up, some apologetics and people's in lessons now anyway. So, but there are other needs about
Yeah.
dating and unity, and all these sorts of things.
Right. Well, I'm sure meeting those needs is coming up in your quiet times already, and it makes sense to answer those things and to encourage others when you hear 2 videos a week and all of that content. I know Simon's a dad with 2 kids. I'm a dad with 2 kids. It can be a lot, but I think it's doable for many disciples to create content, if especially if you're having daily times in the Word of God, right?
Yeah.
Another question for you: with all that content coming together, I know for my channel, two of my most popular videos, both with about 1,000 views. One is more apologetics, just what is biblical fruit, and the other is more of the hot topic, meeting the needs, about unity, actually. And so, do you find that some videos are more popular or relevant than others, or what's your content that does best?
Absolutely. I think you know yourself if you've been through YouTube and you're trying to think, I can put out stuff that I like, but it's
Hmm.
got to hit the mark. You know what I mean? Like you do care about meeting the
Yeah.
audience's needs at the end of the day, and there's always that balance. But ultimately, I have found that I did run a series called Faith, so it's my acronym for Evidences for God. I can tell you more about that
Okay.
at some point if you want. But that
Yeah.
that was quite popular. So what it is just is faith stands for
Hmm.
first cause, so cosmological argument. If you're not familiar with apologetics, this will sound strange, but cosmological argument, beginning of the universe. A, anthropic principle, so the fine-tuning argument. I stands for injustice, the moral argument. T stands for testimony, testimony of changed lives, Christians, the apostles. H stands for history, history of the resurrection, the Bible, Jesus. So it's like 7 evidences for God packaged in a way that got a lot of responses, and I got the chance to teach it in various churches in the UK. I think some of the stuff, yes,
Mm.
recently about unity has been a big one, biblical purity, like stuff on
Hmm.
progressive Christianity. But
Yeah.
surprisingly, I've had this one video on my site for some reason that everyone, it's just, I get a comment every week, and it's why would Jesus ask his disciples to bring swords? And it's taken me by surprise, I must say. It's probably my most viewed video along with my Isaiah series. Um,
Mm.
so that's been very popular. I think in terms of me responding to what's popular, I think ultimately I do need to learn to do more of what you're doing right now, which is bringing other people in. I had a
Mm.
shaking
Yeah.
things up, getting outside my summer house, interviewing people. I did do a video on a beach recently. I did want to do one at the World Discipleship Summit, but I didn't get the chance. And I was very sweaty. It was very hot. Um,
Yeah.
but I think interviewing people and drawing in other people is a really good idea and something I probably need to do more of. Certainly get into the future. I think, but I think it's trying to get that balance between meeting the needs of today, but being educational as well. So it is a fine
Hmm.
balance, and you have to keep reevaluating. What do I want to say here?
Yeah.
What needs to be said here?
That's really cool and inspiring for me. I make a lot of video content, and sometimes I hear from individual disciples that it's helping them, and it's fantastic that you're able to take that faith acronym and those apologetics and get responses where churches were wanting you to teach on it to whole live audiences. How else has your channel benefited the ministry or forwarded the gospel like that? Were you able to take it from the channel to helping people in their walk with God?
Yeah, I mean, it really has had a huge impact. I must say, it brings so much back to it for so many reasons. I think I mean, without wanting to put ourselves out there, I must become less, he
Hmm.
must become greater. It puts out your voice more if you've got
Yeah.
something to say. I was getting responses when I first started YouTube. I remember my Isaiah series, which maybe had some of them have had like close to 1,000 views, all probably 20 nations around the world of people replying who were able to
Hmm.
understand me, were able to resonate with something that I'd said. I recently
Yeah.
had a couple who came from the churches in India. So they're not from our church, but the Christian church, a Christian church in India. And they came over and they said to me that they'd seen my That Bible Guy stuff online and then sought out the church in Belfast as a result of seeing That Bible Guy
Wow.
stuff online. Um, I've had people contacting me specifically to say how much it helped them. They'd never understood a book before, but what I was sharing really helped them. Some people it really helped them during the pandemic. And I have had other disciples feel like, how can I use my talents? There's another disciple, good friends with in London, who's joined the teaching ministry, but had seen what I was doing and wanted to do something similar. Had sat for many, many years. This is another thing I feel very strongly about, that we've all got talents to use, but we don't know what it is and we don't know how to use it. And we're not
Hmm.
fulfilled as a result because we're not using what we've been given. And I think people realized, oh, you seem to be doing something. How could I do something similar? Turns out they also have an ability to do this. They've got something to share, and then they end up doing something similar. Um,
Hmm.
because I fundamentally believe if God's given you a talent, there's a way that you can use it, then you should go after it.
Wow, that's so fantastic, all the way from India. And every disciple I've spoken to who's on YouTube, they've been able to speak with someone in person or locally who has sought them out because of first seeing them on YouTube. So it is a possible thing, and really cool how God can use it to connect us in that way.
And it really influences evangelism at the moment as well. When I go out on my card, I have my That Bible Guy YouTube written on every card, every invite.
Yeah.
I have them all there. And to be honest, when I invite people on the street at the moment, or cold contact evangelism, I mean, inviting people to church these days, people are as skeptical as I've ever seen them. Not just about God, but about coming to church. But I often lead with believing in God. Evidences talks. I'm going to do talks on evidences for God. I'm going to do talks on morality or something philosophical. And they get a response more because it's a bit more neutral. We eventually get into what they believe. But again, it leads up my channel on the card, telling them what I do. It almost gives me other reasons for stopping people, albeit it's still intimately connected with church and everything else.
When you're my age, if I tell people I'm a minister, they say, well, how old are you? And if I tell them I'm a YouTuber, then they say, oh, what's your channel? And it's also a great prompt whenever you see someone else with a camera to ask them what they shoot and connect through your content, through your passion, that affinity that you both have. So I definitely think that can help with evangelism.
Yeah, and it helped me also make friends. I was at the World Discipleship Summit, and I think I had maybe 2 occasions when someone came to me and said, "That Bible guy." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, you're slightly identifiable under that term." I had a couple of good conversations with people I want to link up with, some quite well-known guys just to link up with when I get back as well, and including yourself as well, Joey, which has been excellent.
I get a lot of people that say, you look familiar. They've seen me online somewhere from the thumbnails. There's a lot of people who are creating content, being prepared to answer themselves. But then I notice for some disciples, like you're identifying in the beginning, they can struggle to defend their faith or have answers. And sometimes we could also fall into just going to a teacher, fantastic teachers like a Douglas Jacoby, a Gordon Ferguson, That Bible Guy YouTube. How do you encourage people to be self-feeding or to learn how to catch fish rather than just giving them fish and giving them the answers? How do you help support them on how to think rather than just giving the answer?
I mean, to be honest, that is a wonderful question, Joey. And as someone who's now leading a church, and I see people struggling at times, I have seen over the years people drifting away because they didn't get their own needs met. They never learned themselves to dig into the scriptures for themselves, and you were just feeding someone. And we all know from experience, as you get older, that only lasts for so long. You have to have your own faith. I think there's various things that I try to do with people. I recently got a book about inductive Bible study that I want to try and pass out to the church to try and help the church. Sounds technical and complicated, but it's a bit more straightforward than that. But I think one of the things I've said to people, they'll say to me, I'm not going to dig in the way you are. I don't like to question just as much as you do. And I'm like, that's fine. But in terms of getting into dealing with things, one of the lines I have with people is deal with what you hear. So in other words, you don't need to know all the answers and all the things that I've looked into, but you are hearing things. You are hearing things that are making you question, maybe, and there's doubts that you have that need to be dealt with. So God doesn't need you to become a teacher or an apologist as such, but there is something in there. It says in 2 Corinthians 10:5, we demolish all arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God. Make sure you deal with anything that's coming in. So I personalize it, making sure you deal with anything that's coming into your mind to cause you doubts. Obviously it's, we need faith if we're going to go forward. So personalizing whatever someone's dealing with, trying to encourage them to deal with what they hear. But I suppose also making it bite-sized and achievable, like SMART goals in the world of business and physio world, medical world. What goals? As a physio, I would often have someone come to me with back pain or arm pain, shoulder pain, and I need to give them something to do. They're not going to do the exercise that I do, but they need to do something that's achievable for them. So I think breaking it down into bite-sized reading chunks or inspiring them about something. But ultimately remembering they're only going to sign up to something that they believe works for them. Like they have to believe it will do something for them. So I think when I'm working with someone and I suspect that they don't want to dig in, that they don't read very much, it's like, well, what do they hope for in life? And what might meet that need.
Simon, thanks so much for answering those questions. And is there anything else you would like to add or any advice for disciples who are thinking about creating some YouTube content?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in terms of setting up content, it's a case of there's something that we all feel. We all have a message to speak to the world. We all have something that we want to share with people. It may be something that's been knocking around your head for a while. It'll often be built based on a felt need that you have. So I've seen young people not able to defend their faith. You might see the need for unity. You might see the need for more diversity in the church. Maybe race issues, environmental issues. My daughter has a passion. She may become, I should say this on the quiet, she may become that Bible girl in the future. But she's a real passionate person. She has a message. She's quite young yet, but it's based on felt need, based on injustices she's seen. So that's what drove me. So I think that'll be the driver for people. I think don't let what you're not good at put you off, because for me, I'm not great with technology. I'm not in my shed today because I haven't sorted out the internet well enough. The Wi-Fi connection is to where I am. And the other thing then is relying on people who can help you where you're weak. So that Bible guy was somebody else's idea. The little picture in my icon was someone else's idea. The idea of setting up a YouTube channel was someone else's idea. I am a benefactor of the sense of family that is around me. I just like the content side of it, and I rely on people for all sorts of other help. You get better as you go along, of course, but leaning on others as well is helpful. People can help you.
Wow, I hear the drive and the humility that's also needed, and I encourage that as well. Simon, thanks so much for chatting about YouTube and discipleship, and everyone please go check out that Bible Guy YouTube channel and comment, like, subscribe, and give Simon some love there.
Oh, thanks so much, Stu. It's been such a pleasure talking to you today. Appreciate that.